Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weird Sports Podcast for March 19th, 2025. I would say we have a jam-packed show for you, and in a way we kind of do, but it's only one topic. Today we're going to be covering March Madness, doing a little preview, and kind of labeling this one a casual guide to March Madness for those of us who perhaps didn't pay as much attention to everything happening throughout the season for college basketball. We got Ryan here from At the Buzzer to fill us in on everything that we missed and just kind of give us a good overview of what to expect, who to fill in on our brackets, all of that. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it to myself and Ryan talking about March Madness for about half hour. Everyone, welcome back to At the Buzzer. Today is a special one because we're going to be covering college basketball with March Madness happening. I'm joined by Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brian. Thanks for asking. It's a good time of year as a as a basketball fan for sure.
Yes, one of the most exciting times of the year. There's really nothing better than March Madness. It's almost a whole month of just people watching basketball all day, making crazy bets, winning money, losing money on brackets. Yeah, yeah. One of my first office jobs, they would put it on in the conference room. So just all day on a giant TV, there'd just be March Madness happening. Not a lot of productivity during these weeks, especially during the early part of March Madness where there are games on like all day, every day. But yeah, we're here to kind of approach this from the perspective of people who maybe haven't been paying that much attention to college basketball this season. And I guess, Ryan, coming into this tournament, who is the favorite?
The favorite right now is probably Florida, hands down. Florida, they just won. They just won their tournament. They've been really hot. They've been, you know, they're number one right now. Or they were the number one seed, right? And now they're one of the four number one seeds in the tournament. Um, I actually think they're ranked out of I think they're ranked 4th currently, but I would say they're definitely who everyone's picking. They're extremely hot right now. Um, they destroyed Alabama after Grant Nelson got injured on Saturday. Um, they've got like some pretty exciting like forwards that are big that do a little bit of everything. They've got really dynamic guards. They're just they can kind of you can see the different ways they can play. To kind of a team's pace. Yeah, they're just very exciting right now.
All right. And then I guess I guess who are the other like big dogs, the teams that people kind of are picking generally other than Florida? Who are people this is a big question for like who are the teams that people should pick to win that isn't necessarily Florida, in their brackets?
Yeah, so I would say the other big team, definitely Florida, but you also got to throw in right up there with them is I think most people are picking Florida from what I've seen, but also Duke is huge. Um, Duke's been incredible with Cooper Flag. They don't have as many like top 25 matchups as the other big teams, but I'm sure you've seen they just like slaughter teams. Like usually, if you look at like a spread for one of those games, it's usually like I'd have to if I had to guess, it's like 20 plus points on a lot of them. Cooper obviously sprained his ankle, and the past two games they've still played really well. So now he's just going to be able to go in and lockstep is the hope. On top of them, the other number one seed, there's also Auburn, who a lot of people consider the number one team right now still. Um, they did suffer a loss recently. And I think they've actually, when I say that, I think they've actually lost 3 in a row, maybe even 4. I'd have to double check that. But again, they're as good as anyone. They've got a star big man who's been really dominant. He shoots, does a little bit of everything. He can kind of bang with the best of them as well. Um, yeah, so those are the 3 teams that probably come to mind the most. That being said, the other one seed, Houston, is very good. I don't think you can count them out. From from my experience, they play very well in the regular season. They've never really had like I feel like they always fall short in the tournament. But that being said, they're the best defensive team in the country consistently. Um, they're a very impressive program, but they're also a newer like dominant program. So I still feel like they're getting their feet wet in terms of like long term, tournament dominance. On top of that, I would say there's the other big two to me among those. I think you got to count Tennessee. They were the number one team for like the almost like the first half of the season. They've also beat some really good teams. Also a very good defensive team. And then the other one would be Michigan State, just because Michigan State just won their tournament. They've been pretty hot, and they're just pretty battle tested. I want to say they've beaten Auburn in the past. They've beaten some really good teams, right? And these are all teams with like very respected very respected coaches. They're well known programs with history generally. As I said, Houston's a little newer, but they've just been, they've just been respected in recent time as easily like the most consistently dominant defensive team.
So I got to ask, obviously, you know me, I'm the football guy here on this channel. When did the SEC become a basketball conference?
It's pretty insane, right? They were talking about this. So that was like when Alabama and Auburn were the number one and two teams in
Yeah,
the country.
right.
They were just like, "What for football? It's football, right?" And I think even Bruce Pearl has been like, he goes, they get really when I talk to he goes, you got to realize when I talk to my fans about spreads and stuff like that, he goes, you got to talk football terms. They don't know what the
Yep.
hell I'm talking about. So right, and that's a coach, so he knows. Yeah, the SEC is insane. It was kind of me. I was actually just going through a bracket that me and a friend are doing together, and we're just kind of like, we were like, at some point we have to not pick an SEC team,
Right.
and yeah, they're just it's incredible.
14 out of the 16 teams made the tournament. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that is insane. And what I mean, who's in there? It's right? Alabama, Florida, Auburn. I mean, those are
Tennessee, Texas A&M, Kentucky,
those are all top four seeds.
yeah, Missouri, Ole Miss,
Missouri is a 6 seed. Ole Miss is an 8 seed, maybe.
Mississippi State, Vanderbilt,
No,
Georgia.
I think Ole Miss is 6. Mississippi State is 8, I believe.
Hmm. So yeah, then there's Vanderbilt, Georgia, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. I assume that's the last team that made it. LSU and South Carolina both had losing records.
So all of those teams are beyond like top 9 or better, except Arkansas's top 10. And Arkansas is a team. So they're a 10 seed with their 5-star recruit, and I think I gotta double check. If he wasn't their highest scorer, he's their second highest scorer. I think he might have been their highest scorer. He's been out
Hmm.
after the first 20 games. So I mean the SEC is stacked right now.
And like, it's not that crazy. Like Kentucky, they're
No,
almost always a good basketball team, right? Like,
they're more. I would actually say Kentucky is more of a basketball school
well,
than
way more, way
way
more.
more, way more. And
Yeah.
um, Alabama's been good at basketball for a bit.
Yeah. The last few years, really, right? They've been really
Yeah, they've
building the
been really good
program up.
the last few years. I think even before that, but a few years ago it was with Brandon Miller. They didn't
Yeah. Right.
make it that far, but I mean they were incredible in the regular season.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and obviously Florida this year, right? And these are all teams like most of them had somewhat respectable basketball programs.
Yeah. The back to back Florida team, the 06, 07, that was, a pretty historic. I mean, it hit at the perfect time for people our age because that's when we were like getting really into
Yeah.
sports. So it's like, oh yeah, that Florida team that was so good. But I mean, you look at that roster, that was a good ass team.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, these yeah, no, the SEC teams are no joke. There's a good. I mean, I would wonder. You're talking about betting what it would look like for an SEC team to win.
Yeah, right.
That would
I
be
mean, with
interesting.
so many teams in there already.
Yeah.
So obviously UConn back-to-back defending champs. They're what, an 8 or a 9 seed this year?
They are a 9 seed.
Yeah.
8, I think they're an 8 seed, 8 seed.
So
And
what are
if you don't know for tournament, just for some tips, 9 seeds typically be 8 seeds. I think it's something like over 70% of the time. So that's
a
one.
good stat.
Yeah, right. So when you're picking an 8 seed, you are going against the grain as of right now. Is that like a weird statistical trend that's bound to be bucked eventually? I kind of lean towards, yeah, it could be, but it is telling, right? It is something it's something that's good to know. You
Yeah.
might want to take into account.
No, that definitely
I have UConn winning the first round.
yeah.
It's tough. I have a hard time seeing Dan Hurley go down the first round. It would be, right. It's one of those things. It would be like very like cinematic or whatever, like winning the 2 years in a row. Obviously Dan Hurley's kind of known for his hot head
Yeah.
a little bit, for sure. So if he lost the first round, that would be pretty crazy. I don't think so. That being said, I don't see them. I gotta say, I want to say they play like a really good team the second round. I mean, they play Florida, so like I just don't really,
Yeah,
I just don't really see it happening. Their team hasn't been that good. Again, I think obviously Dan Hurley is a very good coach. We got to think back to those teams like last year, Stephon Castle. If for any of our viewers out there who might like the NBA, I mean, Stephon Castle right now is like, I think he's got to be the favorite to win Rookie of the Year, and he's slotted to be Victor Wembanyama's like second in command. He's going to probably end up being like a really, really good NBA player.
Yeah.
So he had him last year. Donovan Clingan was obviously an incredible college player. He went up right up against Zach Edey, and he's a pretty good.
Yeah,
NBA
last year was
he's a pretty good NBA center. So they had those two last year. They still have that. I mean, and they still have Alex Caravan. But he was more of a supporting role. Now he's a little older and more is expected. And then the year before that, they had that kid Jordan Hawkins, who was, I don't know, I think he shot like 46% from 3 in the tournament or something.
Right.
So I mean, they've had. I think sometimes, obviously coaches are important, but it is sometimes college. It's so focused on the program, and we've seen teams like Kentucky last year, teams that were really player heavy. It just get destroyed. So sometimes people tend to go really in on these coaches and the programs itself, but the players are pretty important too. So I do think UConn's kind of in a transition year. Their best player a lot of the times they've been running through is Liam McNeely, who was injured a bit. He's a freshman. From what I've seen of him, I like him. I think he's tough. He's resilient, but they're asking him to do a lot, and guys are getting right on him. I just don't see them being able to beat Florida.
Maybe another year in the weight room for him to.
I think he's going into more. So.
Okay, never mind.
He's a 5-star recruit who's like this, like the main guy on UConn his freshman year. He's not staying.
He's going to get a lot of money now.
Yeah, that's not a thing guys do. It's just like someone was. I think my friend was like, if Cooper comes back, and I was just like, why
would he do that?
Yeah. I know like Cooper Flagg, he's known for his like mature personality, like kind of like winning mentality, but like there's just no shot in hell a guy with his prospects. Like, yeah, he's if we didn't just have Wemby, he'd be like the biggest thing since Zion at least.
Right. Yeah, no, it's like when fans of bad teams are just like making edits on Twitter of him in their jersey, like that's when you know that like he's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, no, I mean Cooper Flagg is insane. I've always thought with him, I don't know if I've ever told you this, he's almost like a Derek, like I'm not comparing them play style wise, but like almost like a Derek White level role player in like a 6'8" like star player's body. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder how that's going to translate to NBA. I mean, he's really good. I still think even this year, Duke fans would tell you feel his presence the most on defense. He's an incredible defensive player, very versatile, talented shot blocker. But I mean, yeah, he's an incredible player. For me, I will say I lean Duke. I really think, I mean, Duke's been incredible. They've been good without him. Then they're going to get the ball rolling with him again. And it just kind of feels like someone was comparing him Carmelo Anthony, Zion. There was one other player, right? But these are guys who are super dominant in their 1 year. And I do think if you look at all of those players, regardless of the time period, like who is the most overall impactful player, I think it would probably be. I think there's a strong argument for Cooper Flag. He just does everything, and he averages over 20 points per game. And the team has been so dominant. And he's right. They've just taken such a seismic shift. And on top of that, they also have another freshman who's probably going to be a lottery pick. I think he's shooting 38%, but he looks like a guy that could definitely get to like NBA 40% 3-point player.
All right. Give me an unconventional potential champion here, sleeper, if you will.
So out of like that's kind of tough. If we're going into like the deep, like upset teams, the one that I see like going beyond, everyone kind of is in on UC San Diego. I like VCU to maybe getting like the Sweet 16. If you don't know, so VCU, right? They've been a team that's been in the tournament before.
That's Virginia Charlton or Virginia Commonwealth. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if VCU, they've been in the mix for a bit. They're like one of those teams that's kind of been rising up, but they are really big. They've got like multiple guards that are like 6'7", 6'8", one of which is Chauncey Billups' son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. That's pretty exciting. They're known for defending the 3-point ball extremely well as shot blocks, steals, forcing turnovers. And like I said, they're a big team overall. Like, I think most of their guys were talking 6'7", 6'8", 6'10".
Mm-hmm.
We know how important it is to defend the 3 ball in today's basketball. I just think they're well slotted at the beginning. Like I can see them. I could definitely see them beating. Wisconsin has been on a bit of a run, but I could see them upsetting Wisconsin. And I honestly, I think I love Alabama. I put them right up there with like UConn, and I also like North Carolina is like my favorite teams
Mm-hmm.
generally. But I just they've struggled with some injuries. Grant Nelson got injured on Saturday for the second half, and they went from a close game. They went down. They ended up losing by over 20 points, I believe. They've kind of just had some late season losses. I think at the very least, it's worth looking at if VCU makes it that they could upset Alabama.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So, because again, I think Alabama looks to get it in. Like what they kind of do is they'll drive in a lot, and then they like to get like close baskets. And then once they can get that going, they kind of like to go either a heavy 3-ball team, and they shoot a lot of threes. But again, VCU has shot blockers, they have size. And again, Alabama's got a lot of guys, but Grant Nelson, who is a forward who is 6'11", has been playing incredible this season. He's the white guy with the mustache. And I feel like people always, whenever they watch Alabama, they're like, "Oh, I love that guy." He looks like he was born. He looks like he was born out of the backside of some shitty Ford,
Mm-hmm.
and like options were we're either selling him to a meth camp or he's a Alabama recruit.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah,
well,
so
the spicy white boys, this is their time to shine. March Madness is like, it's a white boy winter, if you will.
Well, I mean, yeah, what you had Tyler Herro and I didn't even think of that. Tyler Herro and Mac McClung were the winners of those, right? And then you got Cooper Flag as the number 1 pick. Because Chet was the second pick, so he's probably the first overall white American prospect in a bit.
Right.
But we probably, I don't think there's any reason for you and me to go down this road.
No, I was just making a joke that like everybody falls in love with the like white kid with the terrible haircut from a mid-major who wins.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I mean. He's got that look. Yeah, I think a lot of times he has like a mustache. Like, why the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you have a mustache?
Lately, yeah.
Why do you have a mustache with that haircut specifically? I don't know. And he's been playing incredible, but he got her Marcus Sears, who there's definitely like March Madness. Like you're doing like some sort of drinking game, like drink every time this. There's just some crazy ones. One would definitely be every time someone compares Marcus Sears to Jalen Brunson.
Mhm.
Um, and Marcus Sears has gotten hurt a few times. And again, if a team figures out how to frustrate him, it could definitely hurt Bama. So I'm not saying that's like one I'm 100% on or anything. I just think VCU is a fun team to look out for. As far as teams that, I mean, we can talk about Saint. Everyone's been big on St. John's. I think I've talked to you about St. John's. I definitely very captivated by Rick Pitino, and I mean the dude. If you know his story, kind of got pretty much blacklisted from the NCAA because of stuff involving uh, some explicit stuff with bringing in recruits. And then he's always been known for kind of speaking his mind. Even when he was on the Celtics, he got a lot of flack. He was like, said like, "Hey, Larry Bird's not coming back. Like, I don't know what you guys expect." Something along those lines. And then if you remember last year, he came on to St. John's. They lost. They lost. I don't think they qualified for the tournament. And at their loss, he spent almost like an hour just berating his team and like, yeah, you got the vibe. It was almost like you catch a guy like after a loss like that, like over a beer, like just talking his absolute crap. Like he was just like, yeah, they're just not very athletic. They don't move that well. Like saying stuff like that. And he apologized the next day. But if you know something about him too, right? Like he definitely wanted to get. I know he wasn't interested in the name for the tournament they do.
The
Yeah,
NIT.
yeah, the IT, exactly. Um, so he was not a fan of that, and I think a big reason is because he wanted to get recruiting, he wanted to get building for this year, and I
Right.
mean, you saw it this year, they're just known for they actually don't start off playing that well always, they're down in the first half a lot, but they're just like a super intense, defensive team, they force a lot of turnovers, they play very physical, um, they definitely shoot. Rick Pitino was an early proponent of like the 3-and-D play style. You can kind of see how he ended up fitting on the Celtics a little bit early on. He was the president of the Celtics at one point. Um, yeah, and they've just been playing their asses off. They just won. They're in a very tough conference, right? And they just beat Crane for their championship. I believe they ended up beating them by double digits. Um, yeah, I really like St. John's. I think it's going to take a really good team to beat them, in my opinion. I just think he's a very good college coach, and he's kind of back on his feet, right in his element again. Um, I think St. John's is one you got to at least consider for like the Elite Eight, at the very least, the Sweet 16 for me. And they're number 2 seed. I mean, that's incredible. I don't know if they've ever been there before. Right? Last year they didn't even make the tournament. This year they're number 2 seed.
Mhm. No, that's very interesting. Apparently, there's also something called the College Basketball Invitational. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
there's a
know if
bunch.
that's
There's so much.
third
There's
level. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say at this point, like I try to like when I can, if I'm doing nothing, like I try to keep up with college basketball. But at this point in the
Mhm.
year, I just tune out anything that unless there's like something really on my radar, like for a specific player or something. I'm gonna just follow March Madness. I think there's 2 games
Okay.
on tonight. There's a 16 seed game right now, and then later on there's the 11 seed game with North Carolina tonight. Um, I actually I don't know if you know about this. One thing that was controversial with these play-in teams was that the board picked North Carolina. One of the guys on the board who came out and announced the teams on Selection Sunday is the athletic director of North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they immediately addressed that. But the fact, and I think a big thing is North Carolina only has had like one quadrant win. That being
Mhm.
said, they've been playing extremely well as of late. From I've watched them a bit, as much as I can, and they've got some really good guards. RJ Davis has been around for a while. He can put up points. I think they could get as far as the second round.
Mhm.
You know, I think they should win tonight. I mean, it's bound to be a good game. They're playing San Diego. San Diego's been a team that's kind of their name's been in there for a bit. But I think North Carolina should get it. If they, because again, I got to admit I got to think the athletic director is probably like, hey, you guys got to fucking show that you can play, okay? Because
Yeah, that's a great point.
even like right, even if I didn't help you guys at all, like it's gonna look really bad. And they've got something, and it gives them something to prove. And it's North Carolina, right? The fact that they're not in the tournament, I mean,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
like, I think it's an automatic. If they don't win this game tonight, it doesn't matter who the head coach is. I think you got to be like, North
Outta
Carolina's gonna
here.
got to get someone new. Yeah, that's just how it
Yeah.
is. I mean, we saw Coach, right? I don't know if you know Coach Calipari, Kentucky's coach. After last year, I think was it 3 years in a row they got eliminated, like um, in the first round. I think they fired him, and he's now the coach for Arkansas.
Right. Yeah. Which is like crazy that John Calipari would get fired, but I guess,
But I mean, again, you lost. Was it? You can double check that. I think it's like 3 first rounds or something. At least two of them were first round. I mean, last year was insane.
yeah, so oh god, their Wikipedia page is so enormous for their men's team. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
2 years in a row, they lost in the first round, and then
it's 2 years.
2023, they lost in the second round.
Yeah, and all right, that's what I thought. At least twice. So once it was the second round. That makes sense. But I mean, to me, like they're basically, for context, they're like college basketball's Cowboys right now.
Yeah.
Just in the sense, right? They have a deep history, but like I would not count on them to win anything.
Ooh,
But they've been pretty
that's
good.
brutal.
I mean, it's think about the fact they were a 2 seed last year, right? Um, I mean, again, last year their team was all freshmen, all kids that left. Um, and again, they were very heavy 3-point team. The shots weren't falling that night. And if you remember, they played Oakland.
Mhm.
Those are the kind of Cinderella teams people are looking for. That kid Jack Golke. Um, I think people thought he was like an insert by like as like a March Madness like prop.
You're right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool because so if you remember him, 26-year-old D3 transfer. Maybe not 20. He's at least 24, but right. So older D3 transfer. He only took, I believe, 2 non-3-point field goal attempts the entire regular season. That's insane, right? And then he comes in and just like he ripped at least. I mean, I think he scored like 30 points that game. He must have ripped at least like 8 or 9 threes. Um,
Yeah, so he well, yeah, 23, 24. The hairline was really the the big
yeah, and
thing.
he looked right. He looked his age, maybe even a little older.
Yeah.
And he was an accounting major. Looks like an accountant for
Yep.
sure. So everyone was just kind of like, "Is this just like an FBI?" Like, like
He's currently on the Detroit Pistons G League team.
yeah. I was gonna say, I knew that he. I mean, you can shoot like that. Someone's
Yeah.
probably gonna take a chance on you.
Flyer,
He
why
was
not?
well. I mean, he was a huge name. People are still right. I guarantee if you go on ESPN, they're talking about March Madness right now, and people are trying to hype up a Cinderella team. They're going to be like, he's like a Jack Golke, right? That was a big name last year. Those are the kind of guys we're looking for, right?
Yeah. No, I love it's fun. I mean, anytime you get a small team winning a couple games, making some noise, it's what this time of year is all about, really.
Well, especially right. That was like what Is it Oakland, North Dakota? Somewhere?
Let me see.
No, wait, because right they were Oakland, but it was not Oakland, California. It was
Auburn Hills, Michigan. Oh wow. Dude, I didn't even know that last year.
yeah. See, I thought North Dakota. I mean, it didn't even really matter, right?
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they beat Kentucky. But so you can see, right, Calipari was under a lot of fire. And again, that's how these teams are, right? Those are both blue blood teams, by the way, Kentucky, North Carolina,
Yep.
UConn recently inducted, but like that's how those teams are. And like North Carolina is probably known as the biggest one, right? Like my
Mhm.
parents, like, they'll watch basketball at the time, but we were watching Duke and North Carolina, and they're like, well, North Carolina, they're like the team, right? And I was like, no,
Not
Duke
this
is
year.
not at all. Duke is a team. And what, North Carolina, was it 2 or 3 years ago they were in the championship?
Yeah, they were really good a couple of years ago.
I think it was a few. I think now it would have been 3 years ago. Also, I think they played Duke in the Final Four. That was when Paolo
Yeah, that was crazy.
Banchero. I mean, that Duke team was. If you look at the NBA players, actually, well, him and and Mark Williams, who's known now for the guy who got denied by the Lakers, but they had those
Right.
two. Very impressive, and then also AJ Griffin, who's an NBA player. Ty Ty Washington, who's got to be somewhere out there. Last I heard, he was on the Rockets. Yeah, it's impressive.
No, definitely. So, anything else you want to add before we get on out of here? I know we took a half hour. Hopefully, you don't have like tons of stuff you got to do. This will probably be the whole episode of Wicked Good Sports today.
Oh, I
As you
mean,
know,
yeah. So you as well. I know you've got some stuff on your plate. I mean, honestly, I was planning. Me and my friend were going to try to bang out our bracket after this.
yeah,
Well, that's what a lot of trying to spend as much of my time just kind of looking at it, trying to you know just have fun with it. Enjoy this time of year.
mhm,
Um, like I said, I think for me, I have a hard time not seeing Duke or Florida. They're I don't know if I see Auburn, but like I think you have to consider Auburn
mhm,
um, a 2 seed who like I've been tempted to see up. That they're just kind of an interesting team to me in the sense you could sell me on an upset, but like I've also had them. I could see them in the championship. And I think there's a very good case for Elite Four or the Final Four. Elite Eight would be Michigan State.
yeah,
Uh, because they've been really good recently. I think they're 8-5 against top 25 teams. Um, yeah, I think they're another team to look out for.
awesome. Well, next week I am traveling next week, but I'm going to try to figure out a way to do the show. It might just be a live stream, so we'll touch base again, get an update on everything that happened, all the like the craziness, and if not next week, the week after, we'll be back and there to cover the Sweet 16 onwards to the end of March. It's gonna be fun. This
Oh,
is a
it's gonna
great
be
time of year.
yeah, it's gonna be a blast. And I'll plug one last game. I just
Yeah.
thought if you guys want like a fun one, I don't think the upset ends up happening, but one that people are kind of big on right now is High Point University against Purdue.
Ooh,
So if you knew Purdue 2 years ago got upset with Zach Edey in the first round, right?
yep.
So this year they're a 4 seed. Some people think they're a little overrated, but then a lot of basketball fans think they're underrated. That being said, they're going they're going up against High Point. High Point, right, is one of these like mid-major teams that has risen up very quickly. They're very big, like their guards are like 6'4", 6'5" or whatever, but they've got a lot of like 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" guys. They've got a 7'1", 7'2" guy. They average over 80 points a game, and they're known for not playing defense. If you even look at their roster, they don't have anyone listed as a center, which is like I said, kind of tells you where they're at, right?
Right.
And they've got a 7'2" guy forward who 7'1", 7'2", and he's their lead rebounder, and they do technically out rebound Purdue, so that could be something to consider. I got to think both teams are going to be taking a lot of shots. It's an 80-point per game team. Like I said, they're not going to play a lot of defense, but Purdue's going to get a lot of chances on them as well.
Mhm.
I ultimately don't know if I can see it happening, but I'm interested to watch. It's definitely a game I'm going to want to watch. I think it's going to be I guess the way I could compare it, if you remember last year, there was Grand Canyon University who won the first round. Then they lost to Alabama. They were like a team that got people pretty pumped up. They're in it this year too, and they did win their tournament. They're definitely a really like fun program. Big GCU guy, go Antelopes.
I love it. All right,
but
Ryan. I'm sorry.
but they're similar. So yeah, they're kind of you could see them as maybe people are looking at them as like the new kind of GCU this year. I think GCU is still GCU, but they've got
Yeah,
two tough. I don't see them being able to beat Maryland.
right. All right. Well, anything you want to plug before we get on out of here?
No, not at the moment. You can check out. I'm sure we'll be doing an NBA podcast at some point. Check out our NBA podcasts. Generally, we cover that, and yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, if you enjoyed this, please check out the main channel. I'm dropping a video about why the college basketball games went away and why I think that they should come back now in the age of NIL. So it's good synergy with this podcast there. So check out the main channel. We get everything. Then obviously this channel is Wicked Sports, and we have our podcast channel, Better Radio. Ryan, thank you so much for your time.
Brian, pleasure as always.
And we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for checking out the episode of Wicked Good Sports where we covered March Madness in a more casual way. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. We have new videos coming out all the time on this channel. And good luck with March Madness. Try to enjoy it. Starts on Thursday, runs through the rest of the month. It's always such a fun event, even if you are, like myself, a more casual college basketball fan. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.